Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Vlad from Writing Leagues, and I'm here with an owl vote, and this is the first battle that I'll be voting on from Owl Week 2. This one is between Lemarchand and OrpheusTheMagician. And the topic, you can find it in the thumbnail. Also, there will be a link in the description to this battle if you're interested. And the topic that we have here, I believe, is a Salvador Dali painting piece titled The Egg. Basically, it just looks like an egg with a man climbing through it. Broken egg, I suppose. Looks like a picture of the world. The egg has got the world on it with a man climbing out of the shell. And a woman standing pointing. It's interesting. Not sure if it's some mythological based sort of thing. Is weird. Is weird, but I like it. I like it. So let's get into the verses. First verse I'll be looking at is Orpheus. And this is titled O.W.L, Immortal Egg. Enclosed within the depths of an eggshell, an embryo transported from an isle similar to O.W.L in Greece where the natives dwell, pardoned by the angel of death, Azrael, an alpha male in peak physical health, evolved past those stages, skipped those phases, was never a baby, capable to take care of himself, one that excels, constantly prevails, prophesies to never fall short or fail, feared most by Hades and the demons in hell. So that's a decent start. Looking at it, it might be a bit of an odd format in terms of the carryover lines. Not really picking up a whole lot of end rhyme. Well, I mean a little bit. Eggshell, O.W.L, natives dwell, of death, Azrael. So I mean that's not bad for that being thrown in there. Don't really have any complaints so far. Going on the sort of ancient Greece, jeez. Interesting so far. Very based on the topic, obviously, which is a good start. Pay him homage by tribute, he rebukes the astute, crude, rude, and the shrewd, refuses mammon collected and taxed from harlots and prostitutes, preferred our hymns, manuscripts, and tunes played on pan flutes. His birthing ceremony took place in the Parthenon, prince of Mount Olympus, a gift of the gods. The fauns rejoice and celebrate in song, well versed in the languages, Greek, Arabic, and of Babylon. To have been in the land of old, he still remains so young, living life in the blink of an eye, light speed, beyond the tachyon. Could have ran the race, instead he ran many marathons. His days were long, they still are, the mileage has been tacked on. The history books lost track, he walked many laps around the map. His laughs are long, and he laughs last. The scholars were shocked, impacted at the fact that his lungs never collapsed. Abs carved from stone artifact, chiseled in bistro. The gods cut the loose fat. His body is pulled pork. He's even shredded on his back. So again, we're going with a not very obvious rhyme scheme here, but it is working in that the wording is fairly basic, not in a bad way, in that it carries the rhythm of the piece. I did like what you did in certain spots here for a bit of description. His body is pulled pork, he's even shredded on his back. Things like that just add a bit of depth to the piece, enhancing what you're saying. So that was a nice addition there. Let's keep going. Spoke testimonies, witnessed epiphanies, created symphonies, crafted the housing of study for Socrates, Pythagoras, and Euripides. I don't know if I even said that right. Don't judge me. Mastered the art of the tragedies, having profound knowledge, wisdom, and deep understanding, accomplishing tasks that mere mortals find taxing or physically demanding. Not the type for competing. Whatever he set his mind to, he was capable of completing. At the thought, he could sprout wings and ascend above the kings. The only thing he didn't have of his own was a queen. Feared the idea of an offspring, Mercury in his genes. Freezes at the thought of matching with someone with mortality and their frailties. Not a fool with immortality, grasped the concept of empathy and sympathies. So yeah, this isn't a bad piece at all, by any means. It kept me interested. The only thing is I kind of came to the end, and I think I wanted something different or more at the ending. It didn't feel 100% to me like an actual ending. I know you got into the only thing he didn't have of his own was a queen. So that was kind of the bring down of the what you're talking about. But as I got to the end, that felt like it felt like to me there should have been a bit more to end out, a bit more finality. At the same time, though, since you're doing this mythological ancient piece, I mean that in a way that still continues and is learned about and taught. So at the same time, I mean, there really isn't any finality to that. I don't know if that was the intention there. I'm just kind of thinking out loud with that. Again, one thing that I did notice was the structure. I would have liked to see a bit more punctuation. You started it out, there was a couple commas at the start, and a few in between lines, or in the middle of lines, I mean, where needed. But some of it I wasn't sure if I was supposed to just keep reading it straight, or if I was supposed to pause. That really wasn't noted in at times where I think it could have been. Periods, starting the next sentence with a capital, that sort of thing. And I know you do your structure a bit odd. So I mean, I get it and I understand from talking to you why you do it. Just did want to point it out. Again, yeah, I think this was a decent piece overall. It did keep me interesting. At one point, I was quite interested in this ancient sort of mythology, Greek god thing. Not so much anymore, but it still, it still holds in the back of my mind. And I enjoy it when someone does write about it and writes about it well. What else can I say? It was very consistent with the topic. That was one thing, obviously. All the way throughout. That was a plus. You did have some imagery in there that was really nicely added. Yeah, I think again my main issue would be with that sort of ending. Just felt a bit incomplete to me. Not a horrible thing, but if we were like, I mean, you're telling the story about this, and I'm not sure that it followed a typical story format, which, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to. But I think the way you did it kind of leaned into that approach. And then because of that is where I have the slight concern. But I mean, otherwise I enjoyed this piece. And I'm gonna get to Lemarchand. And if the past is indicative of a Lemarchand verse, I might it might be interesting to hear me go through this. We will see. Alright, this is O.W.L by Lemarchand. The Elohim taste the wonder of experience through us pieces, and the scenes must shift. I think that should have been our pieces. 1,000 years of suffering is but a nudging. Too many lessons, just let me bunk in bliss. Civilization's evolution, the microcosm is like a sculptor chipping a 2-ton, and the artistic juice is sin. That was a nice line. During the medieval, the Black Death left half of Europe rotting in the fetal. The great work can be evil. Mankind triumphs with deep will. Seed blossom to the virus that we are, the beseech filled. Modern labor, a subtle flavor. Spoilt spawn coked up, caper. What their colonist forebears did to my continent, they raped her. What did their colonist forebears do to my continent? Sorry. Bankers savor hidden castles while the peons plot. The have-nots dream of cots for their bony babes. The car lot worth $1 billion. To matter we're slaves. The gods whisper it's just a stage, just a page. So I hit here with a vape somewhere in the Cape of Good Hope. Pondering Viktor Frankl, how did those Jews cope? A new year, a new struggle, seemingly so. I watch the feeble fumble in fours. Nice alliteration there. Deep in your heart and brain you love the pain. We get that from our maker, the great masochist, the arc-acre. As we trot along, the knots elaborate to puffy tumors. It gets rougher, is the rumor. The Kabbalists say that the purpose of this game is for a creature to burgeon in eternal elation. May the veneer of balance be your station, the train you hop on ever pristine, and then game makes sense. So far I'm just going to pause there. I did note the few, I don't know if I'd say grammatical or maybe even English errors, that I think some of your wording could have been a bit smoother. That'd be the example there. And then game makes sense. I mean, and then the game makes sense. There are the few others that I pointed out. Just little things. So not a huge deal, but it does throw the pace off a little bit. If someone has to pause to correct it in their head. Obviously, some people might just be used to it and put in the words that are supposed to be there in their own head, so they might not have troubles with it. But I'm gonna pick at it a little bit. So far, an interesting piece. I do like the pace of it, and the content. Is sort of took the again civilization's evolution from the Black Death to the modern labor. Have-nots dream of cots for their bony babes. The car lot worth $1 million. So it's a good balance I found in setting the scene with the past into the future, or not future, present, more so. I did like some of the descriptive that you added in. The microcosm is like a sculptor chipping a 2-ton, and the artistic juice is sin. I thought that was nice. Definitely an interesting piece. So let me get through the rest of it. When time disintegrates and all that's left is bliss, till late the show negates, the flow inflates, the art radiates, till all blemishes dissipate, and this in grace. Nice rhymes. So I stand alongside my fellow sapient with no pride, my eye on he whose sires lies. Admire the prize, desire with cries. The instrumentality project is just another object, running in Aleph, unlike a myriad comet moreover the stars. In fact, you are the void that beckons the gods. With moon-shaped feet step onto Mars, this too applause. The play fans out like a deck of cards, there's never pause. Enter and exit some pretty doors. Marble by the foyers and angel horse, till experience has spent your force. Find yourself as the utterly simplistic, you are the cause. So this was a decent piece as well, my dude. This, not bad at all. It did have the typical sort of Lemarchand approach, but it looks like you did actually maybe adapt a bit more to the topical format that we've been seeing lately. As I didn't get stuck or caught up as much as maybe some of your other pieces due to that some of the wording that you use sometimes could hinder the flow a bit. But this one was quite a bit smoother than I remember. One thing I would mention is some of the inconsistencies in the line length. Some of the lines are quite long. They do have like commas for breakup, so it's not a huge deal. But then we get into some lines that are the gods whisper, it's just a stage, just a page. It gets rougher is the rumor. So just for an example, I'll use that one. So the line before it: the great masochist, the arc-acre, as we trot along, the knots elaborate to puffy tumors. It gets rougher is the rumor. I mean, it flows fine. It flows fine the way that you did it. But you would have to be careful with that. I mean, if you kept doing it like this, it would probably work. With the straight, direct rhyme in the follow-up line. If that wasn't as pronounced of a rhyme, there might be an issue with the long line to short line. So that would be something to keep in mind there. Was an interesting piece, and I like it, and very consistent to the topic, just as Mages was. Why is my phone going off? Stop it. Pretty similar actually in the way that you guys wrote these. So that was interesting to see. I wasn't 100% sure what sort of approaches. Well, I mean, I kind of assumed what kind of approach from the egg topic, but I was excited to see where you guys went with these. So let's get into voting here. And the first that we have is topic consistency creativity. I'm going to go ahead and give this a tie right off the bat. I think both were extremely consistent, very well done on the topic. The creativity from both was there. I don't really think one of you outdid the other. I was intrigued by both of them. Yeah, you both had some nice wording, nice descriptive in there to enhance what you were telling, the story, and yeah, so that's going to be a tie. Too close to give that anything else. Entertainment and style. That'll be the next category. And that's pretty close as well, dude. It's pretty close as well. I think overall I was a bit more entertained by Mage's piece. Did have the slight concern with the ending, where I did want a bit more from Mage's. That said, Lemarchand, it was consistent throughout. I didn't see much or feel much in the way of ups and downs. I mean, I got 100% what you were saying, and I feel it. I think it was just... It was on the same level throughout. So, that said, I think I am slightly gonna go magician here on the entertainment, just from my personal aspect. But that is super close. I probably easily could have gone a tie, but I'm kind of trying not to go ties even in the categories. I'd like to throw in not ties, but whatever, I lost my train of thought. Alright, so what do we have next? We have emotion. And again, I think that's pretty damn close between these two. At first I felt a bit more into Lemarchand in terms of emotion. The way that he's describing things is a bit more... I don't know if I'd say a bit more in depth, just that the wording that was used brought it maybe a bit closer. At the same time, Mage's how he described the character, I think it did well to put sort of an image to that. Emotion, I'm actually going to go Lemarchand on the emotion. Again, super close. I think coming up pattern here. Let's move on to imagery. Again, you both had... This was both nice in that aspect. Yeah, there were both times where you used it and used it well. The description from Mage in the abs carved from stone artifact, chiseled in bistro, the gods cut the loose fat, his body is pulled pork, he's even shredded on his back. And then we had, again from Lemarchand, a microcosm is like a sculptor chipping a 2-ton. I saw with moon-shaped feet step onto Mars, this is applause. It's things like that. I mean, you guys didn't overdo it or really focus on the imagery, but when you did use it, it was actually very well done. Sort of came out of left field with the descriptions at times, and I felt again it was well done from both of you. I think that I think as a whole, I'm gonna go with Magician on the imagery, just because I think the overall feel of his piece, I was able to picture it a bit more. Lemarchand's was sort of the societal feel, and I mean that's not a knock on that. It just felt it didn't give me the same imagery, the same imaging, the same visions of what was being talked about that Mages did. His was easy for me to get the image in my mind of what he's talking about. So we're gonna go with Magician on that. Storytelling devices, that'll be the next thing. And I mean, I didn't overly feel a story base from either one here. Again, I feel like Lemarchand's was sort of the societal take, the the thought of sort of like Enigma piece, and the word is eluding me right now as to how I would describe that. That's what it reminds me of, though. Enlightenment piece, almost, in terms of telling somebody about the past civilization comparatively to the present. Meanwhile, the mage did have a bit more of the basic story basis. Again, I did have the issue at the end, but otherwise, I think it was a bit better done in terms of that. I do think, again, there could have been some a bit more standard format in terms of story added to mages. His seemed like it was a story waiting to happen, which still had enough of the elements to me to take this category, I believe. So that's going to go that way. The next one we have is going to be Poetic Devices. And I think that's probably going to go to Mr. Lemarchand, because it did have... I'm writing that down. Jeez, I can't multitask. Shit. It was a bit more poetic in the wording, and the take that you took, the approach, allowed for that to come out. Mages, I mean, there was some of the reflection or self-reflection in there. I just, when I read this piece, I did get a bit more on the story side rather than any sort of poetic feel to it. So, I mean, that's not a knock, just the different approaches that were taken. Vocab, spelling, grammar. I mean, this is usually a null category, but I think you both used the grammar well to fit in with the approach that you were taking. I almost want to dock Lemarchand for the few times that the word was incorrect or was missing a word, but it wasn't a big deal. And then Mage, I do think that punctuality, or punctuation, Jesus, I just woke up not long ago, alright? Give me a little bits of breaks. I think punctuation could have been a bit more proficient, but when it those two things will counteract each other. So this is gonna be a null category, a tie category. Flow and pace. I think I've got to go with Magician on this. It was a bit more simple, and I know we did lose out on some rhymes at times. See what I did there? But even so, overall, I think the simplicity of the wording, not even simplicity, I mean, because you did use like a decent vocabulary. It's just that the way you worded it was, it made it easy to follow along. Like, there was nowhere where I was getting stopped, having to reread something. Excuse me. And I did follow the pace nicely. Lemarchand, I think this was progress for you in terms of flow and pace. I know you're usually the more poetic feel and approach. Sometimes, again, it could hinder the pace of things. In this, I didn't really get that. Um, I thought it was well done. I did have, again, some line length inconsistencies that could be changed. Now that said, due to the simplicity, again, as I explained, of Mage's piece, that allowed me to get through at a fluent pace. And again, I think it also has to do with, on Lamar's end, there were the few times that I had to stop and add a word, or reread it to do so. So slightly, this is going to go to Mage. Rhyme scheme, I mean, there wasn't a huge focus on rhyme scheme, though I did like what you both did in terms of carrying on a rhyme, throwing in an extra rhyme mid-line. So I felt like they were very well carried along. I think I'm gonna go with Lemarchand just by a tad on the rhyme scheme here. I think it was a bit more pronounced. I think if Mage was able to add in a bit more in terms of multis, that it could go a long way into the flow, the pace of his piece as well. But so, yeah, so that's gonna go slightly to Lemarchand. So there's the categories. This is super fucking close, guys. This is close. I'm not sure if I'd call it a tie, even if I wanted to. But it is super close. It's probably gonna be hard to explain how a winner is chosen here. But I've got Magician slightly taking this. I think his piece was a bit easier to pick up the imaging of, which then allowed me to follow fluently with the story. Again, I thought Lemarchand's piece was very nicely done. Again, similar to almost an Enigma piece, where you're giving thoughts on society. The way you did it to the topic, well done. Both you, well done on the topic. But again, I just was able to get a bit more from Mage's piece personally. And in a close battle like that, that's what it's got to come down to. So again, great pieces from both of you. I hope you guys keep showing up. Love reading both of your stuff. And I think that'll be it. So we have the close battle going to Magician. And on that, I mean, I could see it going either way. I wouldn't be surprised to see a vote for Lemarchand or a few votes for Lemarchand. But at this point, Magician for me. And that'll wrap it up for me on this. So take it easy.